welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Niner Family Huddle podcast. Today, we are reacting to the Lions game last night. It was a fun and entertaining game. I enjoyed watching it, wasn't stressed out, just kind of sat back and watched a shootout. That was kind of fun, and there's a lot to talk about coming out of that game. We'll get into all of it right after this. All right. Niners lost to the Lions last night, but they played admirably, put forth a pretty good effort in some phases, not so good in other phases. Let's start with the quarterback because that's where the big news is. Brock Purdy got injured in the game. I was thinking about it before we were getting on. I was like, that game kind of had the classic Clint Eastwood movie to me. It was the good, the bad, and the ugly from Brock Purdy. The good was he was like really good for the majority of that game. He was accurate. I thought he had some zip on his passes. He was scrambling for a touchdown. I thought he was really good for the majority of the game.
Yep.
The bad, two ugly interceptions, and the ugly was the injury, which I'll just give you guys a quick update. Kyle Shanahan said today Purdy's got an elbow contusion with nerve inflammation. The UCL, which was his previous injury, is fine, and he's most likely going to be out this week. So his season's probably over. And we'll talk about which quarterback we want to see against the Cardinals. I think we probably all agree. Let's see some Josh Dobbs. But anyway, what did you guys think of Brock on Monday night?
Steven, you go first.
You want me to go first? All right.
Oh, yeah, baby.
I felt like this was like the ultimate example of what Brock Purdy is. At least what Brock Purdy is in good weather. I'll put it that way because I feel like he looks worse when he's in bad weather. But it's like mostly good, like really good. Like you said, I mean, I know there was some bad with the picks, but making good decisions. I think I had texted you guys early on that I felt like he was playing smart, like playing within himself and within the offense. Like it was just refreshing to see that. He did still take some shots. I thought they were good shots that he took, like not forcing it too much. Like you said, Ryan, he had some zip on his passes early on. It looked like he was throwing, on target, like leading his receivers and doing what you want to see. So I felt like that is Brock Purdy, in my opinion, mostly a good quarterback, but he's going to be prone to a few mistakes. And it's just a matter of whether or not they can overcome those mistakes. And in years past, last couple of years, they've had a stronger, better defense that can kind of make up for him turning the ball over or whatever. And also they've had a safety net like Christian McCaffrey or Brandon Ayuk and Debo on the field at the same time. Like there's been other things that they can do. All that supporting cast talk that everybody wants to give all of them the credit instead of Brock. I think Brock was really good. I think that if you expect him to be perfect every time he goes out there, then you have unrealistic expectations. And weirdly enough, seeing the way that he played last night in a game that didn't mean anything, him like showing up and playing that way made me feel better about him moving forward, and honestly makes me think you can win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy. You definitely can. You just need to make sure that you have the right pieces around you. So I'm coming away, of course, disappointed that they didn't win, bummed that he did make those two bad mistakes, but feeling pretty damn good about him overall as a player. But go ahead, Jason.
You know what I think about Brock Purdy? And I've been thinking about it a lot, especially since the game, is I feel like Purdy, this might be a weird analogy, but bear with me. I feel like Purdy, football-wise, is very book smart. If he knows what the defense is going to be, if it's going to be a cover two or whatever, like he knows what it's going to be, then he knows where to go with the ball and he can throw it accurately. Where I see him struggle is when defenses mix it up, try and confuse him, or there's like a free ranging like safety that plays outside of the defense and like slashes forward to like cut off. And the defense they were playing, like he shouldn't be doing that. It's like, I feel like he struggles with that. And so that's why I was thinking like he's really book smart, and he knows where to go with the football, but he's not so street smart. Which maybe that's not a good analogy, but like he doesn't react well to things that are outside of like the norm. Like he struggles against blitzes. He seems to struggle when players are just playing outside of the defense. So
I think it's a good analogy because I think Kyle's very similar.
yeah, and my overall takeaway from Brock Purdy is just kind of like, man, it's just I feel like that game like sums him up. Like you see when things are cooking and everything is rolling, like man, he will just put up yards, he'll put up points, he'll look great. And then it's like when there's adversity, we saw even a little bit of like injury concerns, like taking not a very hard tackle and something went wrong with his elbow. I understand there could just be like freak instances, but it's like there's a little bit concern with me on being injury prone. I don't want to put that flag out there quite yet, but it's like a yellow flag maybe at this point. And just man, like in the second half, just kind of making bad decisions. And it's like, I feel like we would see that like with Jimmy G, where it was like, we know he's going to throw one or two just brain dead throws. And we're just going to be like, you literally threw it right to the middle linebacker. How'd you not see him? And it's not that bad with Purdy, but like, I am a little nervous when he's dropping back, especially when he's throwing like the intermediate. I'm just like, man, at least lately, I'm like, I know at least one of them's going to get picked off. Like, there's going to be some free safety screaming down or a linebacker that wasn't supposed to be there that peeled off. So I feel like it was really, the game was like a story of like what Brock Purdy is to me. And it's that he can be ultra efficient. He can be awesome. I love seeing him get excited when he like rushed for that touchdown and like jumping around. Like I was so hyped the first half. And then even in the second half, he still looked really good at times. And it's just like really just bad decisions. And it's like, we've got to clean that up. Even if we don't get like, even if we miss out on some deep shots or whatever it may be, I'd rather have him play a little bit more conservative and not turn the ball over and rely on the offense and the weapons and the run game and Kyle's system a little bit more. Um, so that's what I really want to see him like clean up in the offseason. But yeah, I feel like the game was just, Purdy's performance was like what he is to a T. He can be awesome and he can throw the game away, unfortunately, for lack of better words. But yeah, that was my takeaway.
So I want to let Ryan talk, but I just want to respond to one thing you said. You talked about a couple bad decisions. I honestly don't think that his first pick was a bad decision. I think it was just a bad throw.
Bad
I
throw.
think.
Oh
I
yeah,
think,
yeah, that one for sure.
Yeah, I think he was going to the right guy and it just sailed. So good decision, bad throw, got picked off. The second one, I think he was pressing, and he probably, whether he didn't recognize, didn't see the guy jump the route. That one was more of a bad decision, but that's my opinion. I really don't think I didn't have much of a problem with his decision making overall in the game last night, especially if he's going to throw that pick towards the end when they are pressing a little bit more. I'm not saying that makes it okay. Please don't throw a pick, but it's a little bit more understandable. But anyways, go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I like Chasen's analogy about when things are going well for Brock, he can destroy you. And we've talked about this before. But in being book smart and street smart, like so the second pick that you were just mentioning, Stephen, how it was that one was like the bad decision.
Yep.
Well, the safety, he said after the game he thought the safety was doing something else. Turns out the safety was doing this. He threw the ball and the safety jumped it and picked it off. That confirms exactly what Chasen just said. Like when he knows what the defense is doing, he knows where to go. But as soon as they do something he's not expecting, it's disastrous. And I feel like Kyle's offense is very much the same thing, where like he can study the opposing defenses all week long. He can get their tendencies. He can script up the first 15 or 20 plays and just cruise down the field and score. And as soon as the defense starts doing things that they're not expecting, all of a sudden the offense just like grinds to a stop and they're kicking long field goals instead of scoring touchdowns, and they're losing. And shoot, I would even say that about the defense too. Fred said that a couple times this year. Like, they started doing things that we weren't really expecting. So it's like, are the 49ers being figured out to where like if you as a team can self scout and find your own tendencies and break them against the Niners, you can beat them. If you come into the game against the Niners just like we're gonna do what we do, you're screwed because Kyle's smart enough to find out what you do and beat you. So as soon as you can like run some different offensive plays, some different blitzes that you haven't put on tape, the Niners are just like, what the heck? We're not expecting any of this, and it just really throws them off. So I like that analogy because I think it works for Kyle and Brock, and obviously those two go hand in hand together.
It makes me think like something that I figured would be an off-season conversation for us at some point, but just the whole thing that I always struggle with, are the Niners good because they have a bunch of studs, or do they have players that look better because Kyle is that good of a coach and puts them in that good of a situation?
Hmm.
And so we don't need to dive into that right now, but what you are both saying that you agree with would kind of tend to be, it's more the Kyle thing in my opinion, because if they were just studs no matter what, then they would figure it out in the moment. But it's like if you don't have the tools. But anyways, to come back to Brock, because there's something else I wanted to ask you guys. So he's good. We all agree that he's a good player. I think we also all agree that he's a flawed player, right? Like we've all talked about that.
Yeah.
Um, how concerned are you? Because I don't know why I just like sometimes forget about his age, and I sort of had like an epiphany. I was like, he's like 24, like he's still a young guy,
He
and
just celebrated his 25th birthday a couple days ago.
okay, so like do you think he is what he is mostly? I mean, I know you can always get smarter and better, or do you think like no big deal? Like if you just played, you know, 95% of the game you played really well, and then you had the other 5% where you made a bad throw, made a bad decision, whatever. It's like, hey, I'll take that. Like to me, I'll take that with a 25-year-old quarterback. But what do you guys think? Like, is that settling, or do you think it's good, like that this is good growth and good whatever? What are your thoughts?
I don't think so. Is your question like, has he capped out and is this just who he is?
Is this what he is, and do you think this is what he always will be, or do you think that like this is what you expect from a guy who just turned 25 and is still learning somewhat the NFL game?
I would say no, this isn't just who he is. I think like you see quarterbacks, like I feel like Josh Allen, every year he's been in the league, he's pretty much gotten better. Jared Goff is playing the best football of his career. Like there's a lot of examples of guys playing better later down in their careers. So I think like, yeah, like athletically or like arm strength or whatever, like, yeah, he's in the peak of his like physical abilities, but like decision making, reading defenses, the street smarts, just the brains, I think, is just going to keep getting better and better the more reps, the more NFL experience. So no, I think Purdy will be even better next year, just a little bit better, and then I think the next year he'll be a little bit better than that. He seems like that type of grinder, type of guy that's going to really work, and yeah, I expect him to be better. Really every single year, be a little bit better, clean up things here and there. So no, I don't think he's capped out. I think he still can be better, and I expect him to.
It's not even so much capped out, but I mean, I appreciate your answer and how you said that. It's not so much capped out. I guess it's just like, yes, he might get better with his decision making and everything, but is he always going to be prone to those one, two, three throws a game? Or like, God, what do you do? Like Jimmy G.
Like Jimmy G never
Jimmy G. No matter what, like I don't care how old he gets and how smart he gets. It seemed like no matter what, he was going to make those throws. Because I know Ryan asked us maybe a couple pods ago, is this the best version? Is this the worst version? So I'm not trying to repeat that so much. It's more just about like, do we have a big enough sample now to know this is what Brock is? Or do you think this is what a 25, like, if this is what 25-year-old Brock is, or basically 24-year-old Brock is, damn, get excited. Like, I don't know. It's maybe the question doesn't make sense, but what do you think, Ryan?
I think I know what you're asking, and I tend to think that Brock will, if his superpower isn't going to be size and strength and athleticism and arm strength, it's going to be his accuracy and his decision making. And accuracy is something that maybe you can improve over time. Most coaches would tell you that you can't. Like when you draft Trey Lance and he's inaccurate, it's like he's just inaccurate. Like the people like Josh Allen who come into the league and are spraying balls all over the place, and then by year 3 you're like, this guy might be an MVP because he just got so accurate. Like that's the anomaly. Brock, I believe that he can become a better decision maker. His accuracy to me is fine. Like the first interception was an overthrow. It was a bad throw. He might be a guy that does one or two of those a game, but you know, find me a quarterback around the league who doesn't have one or two throws a game that they're like, man, I wish I could have that one back.
Mhm.
So Brock, to me, it's the interception against the Rams that he kind of chucked up for Jawan
Mhm.
in a 9-6 game. Like those are the ones that he needs to eliminate. The pass that he just throws over a guy's head, like, sucks. You're a pro, and especially if we're going to be, not me, if the 49ers are going to pay you 40, 50, $60 million, then yeah, it's fair to say, hey, you've got to tone back on those. But to me, Brock's decision making and his experience in Kyle's offense and on this team, and if the Niners can continue to put weapons around him, he can get better, and he can be a guy who routinely throws 30 plus touchdowns and keeps the interceptions and turnovers at 10 or less.
Yeah, you both have, I think, talked about Josh Allen now, and that was somebody I was thinking about too. But another one that I thought about was actually Matthew Stafford,
Yeah.
because he was like known for, like, he will light you up and he's gonna make just some awesome throws, and then he's gonna make some bad mistakes. And like almost every game, he's gonna give you an opportunity. You just got to be ready for it, and pick them off. And it's like you said, Ryan, there's not a whole lot of quarterbacks that you can point to that don't have a few bad throws or a few bad decisions or just something like that. So yeah, I kind of feel like anybody who's coming out of last night like more down on Brock, I'd have a hard time listening to them and hearing why. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like you can be a quarterback who throws a lot of interceptions if you're scoring a lot of touchdowns. You can throw 14, 15, 16 picks if you're throwing 35, 36 touchdowns and maybe you run for another 4 or 5. That's accounting for 40 touchdowns. That's fine. If Brock's going to be that, which I don't think he is, great. But you don't have to be that. Brock doesn't have to be that. He could also be the guy who throws 25 touchdowns. But if you are going to do that, then you can only turn the ball over 5, 6, 7 times. So, like Jimmy G in 2021, this is why the 49ers were wanting to move on from him. 21 or 21 touchdowns to 11 picks. That you can't have.
Yeah.
You can throw 21 touchdowns, but it needs to be followed by like 4 picks. So that to me is more Brock's range, 25 to 35 touchdowns, single digit turnovers over the course of a season. And I agree with you, Steven. I think the Niners can win a Super Bowl with him. He's just got to have help. He's not going to carry the team
Yeah.
to that game like what Mahomes is doing this year, where he's just like willing the Chiefs
Right.
to a 1 seed and possibly a third straight Super Bowl.
Right. Right.
There's two small concerns I want to lay on, and I do like the optimistic take, and I am optimistic seeing how well he played. But there's 2 points I want to make. Is that like I'm concerned that like Purdy's bad decisions tend to happen later in games, and that is
Yeah.
very detrimental because that's when it's like the most costly. And
Hmm.
so that's a trend that I'm concerned about. And then also I was having like serious like PTSD when it showed him on the sidelines after he got hurt, like struggling to grip the ball and throw it. My heart was beating
I
fast.
felt so bad.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. And it's this late in the season. He's gonna miss all like I'm so thankful it's not serious, but it does worry me just a little bit. So I have to have to add in the pessimism to balance out your guys' optimism.
Well,
So
Sam and I were laying in bed and we were watching the game, and we were like, "Man, is Brock gonna cry?" He
It,
looked devastated.
I know.
Like he knew, and that was what made me worry. Because if he's on the sideline, just like watching the game, like yeah, elbows bother me, dang it, can't go in. Then you're like, hey, he's probably fine. But he had that look on his face, like he knew what happened in Philly just happened again,
yep.
and he can already see the offseason rehab coming and the
Yeah.
contract talk, and just it was like it was just flooding in his mind. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this game, like, this is a disaster. If the Niners would have won that game and Brock Purdy gets injured, that would be the ultimate disaster. They avoided that. Good for them for not uh, effing around and winning that game. But yeah, I felt so bad for Brock, and luckily it wasn't anything too serious.
So my optimistic pushback on your two negatives there, Jason. Um,
Do it.
so the crunch time thing. I mean, I feel like I've been a pretty steady critic of Brock when it comes to being clutch and him not being
I
clutch.
think we all have acknowledged that he doesn't. So far, he has not displayed that he's a clutch quarterback.
Yep. So not trying to be an apologist or anything because it irritates me that it's like, yep, we always are looking for it and he rarely seems to come through. But to me, the big things there are youth, experience, and exactly what you guys have laid out about just him not being familiar with some of the, off script stuff or whatever, things that they're doing. So I feel like that will come with time if he is given the opportunity. I also feel like that's where the supporting cast does help a lot. I mean, the O line actually played pretty good last night,
Oh
considering
yeah.
who they had out there. But imagine if they had their starters. I mean, maybe it wouldn't have been that much better. But I mean, like if Trent Williams is out there,
They probably would have at least ran the ball better.
right? And so it's like if you have your full complement or close to your full complement, that makes things a lot easier in those crunch time moments because it's guys that you know you can rely on, know where they're going to be. I mean, like he's probably way more comfortable with Ayuk than he is with Pearsall or Cowing or some of those other guys at this point. So I feel like time together, health, whatever you want to call it, that is all going to help with the crunch time stuff. I don't think it's him so much withering from the moment because I do think he has
Yeah.
at least shown us enough examples to know that he's up for it if things can do like in the Super Bowl. I know somebody
Yeah.
pointed out like every time he left the field with the Niners having a lead, and then
Hmm.
Mahomes would just come back and take it from them. Um,
Interesting.
and we obviously all saw that Seahawks game, but I think the key for him is what I said earlier: play within yourself, play within the offense, don't get greedy. So as long as he can do that in crunch time and not like press too much, I think that he'll be just fine. The injury thing, I don't think he's injury prone. I mean, he played all of last year. We'll see, but I feel like that Philly thing was such a freak thing. I mean, you heard even at the time everybody talking about like you don't see quarterbacks get that injury.
Hmm.
Um, I, quarterbacks are going to get dinged up at some point of the year. Every quarterback is going to be dealing with something, right? And they're gonna have those grimacing, on the sidelines or whatever. And yeah, Ryan, I totally was like, oh man, poor Brock. Like you're right. He looked exactly like, this could be really bad. But I don't feel like I don't feel like he takes too many unnecessary hits. He took one last night on, that, or I think it was earlier in the game, but I don't feel like that's like a habit of his, where it's like, dude, you gotta slide. Well, at least I haven't noticed it to the point where I feel like it's a thing of concern, where it's like, dude, you are sacrificing your body too often. But I
He's
guess what
not
I'm
Josh
saying,
Allen, that's for sure. He's like recklessly throws his body around,
right.
but
Yeah.
he's so big he can get away with it.
Yeah, he's got all that armor. But anyways, I guess what I'm saying is I wouldn't say he's injury prone yet. He needs to have, and I don't want him to have this, but he would need to have, one or two more before I feel like it's fair to give him that tag.
He's not Jimmy G. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to give him the injury prone tag yet. But he isn't a big guy, so
Yeah.
Mm.
if he's going to scramble, he needs to slide, which he usually does a pretty good job of, or even like diving forward like he does sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's really scrambling around in the backfield, like the one you just referenced last night, just to chuck the ball as far as you can into the stands, man. Like you just got to recognize when the play's over and to just wave the white flag.
when he is scrambling confidently, it is so fun to watch. Like that Kittle play. How I love that he just like pump fakes now all the time, and he's just like he's like quick out there. He just like jumps around. It's really
The
fun.
defenders are biting at it every time. Eventually, they're going to figure it out. But and what's funny on that play too is if he had thrown that ball, Kittle was wide open. He would have walked in for a touchdown. I
Why?
almost wish he would have thrown it, but
Yeah,
yeah. So
selfish.
it was a nice play though. So give Brock credit for that one.
Yeah.
Uh, you guys want to move on to the head coach?
Yeah.
Well, can we talk about? I don't know if you had in your rundown, but you just mentioned Kittle. Can we give some flowers to George on a
I do
thousand
have
yards? I wore
Yo.
I wore my People's Tight End shirt for him. Chasen's got the jersey on. Like, I love it. I'm
sure.
glad that he got it. And I know we've been talking for a while about how he needs to. Well, not needs to, but we want him to get some more stats because we want him to be first team All Pro. Which doesn't mean anything to anybody but us fans, right? But
No, I mean when it comes to Hall of Fame and stuff like that,
that's
a
true.
guy who's got 3 or 4 first team All Pros is that's going to carry more weight than a guy who's got one.
You're right.
Because that shows that career longevity. This guy wasn't the best at his position for one time, like Matt Ryan was the best quarterback in the sport for a season.
Right.
George Kittle, when you retire with 3 or 4 first team All Pros, it's like this guy was one of the best at his position for a generation.
Yeah. It's cool. They kept talking about how now that he has 4 1,000 yard seasons, that's tied for like the second most all time by any tight end. I don't know who has the
Is it really?
most. I'm guessing. I'm guessing Gronk or maybe Kelsey or maybe they're tied for first place. I have no idea. I would think it's somebody that's more modern, but um, it's just cool to know that he does have some of those records that are up there. Like obviously he's third on the Niners, right, in career receptions, and I think he's going to keep climbing those ranks. I just hope he gets what he deserves, which is all the awards, all the accolades, because he's the man. He's just so. I'm so glad we have him on our team.
Yeah, I mean he's going to go down as an all time great 49er. So I see Kittle, Gronk, Jason Witten, and Tony Gonzalez have 4 1,000 yard seasons, and Travis Kelsey has 7.
Okay, so Travis is in sole possession of first, which doesn't surprise me because he is basically a wide receiver playing tight end. That's kind of how
Mm-hmm.
they use him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean, imagine if he can get one more, whether that's next year or the year after. But if Kittle can get one more and get into sole possession of second place and have 5 1,000 yard seasons, like I feel like that just bolsters the case even more.
Yeah, I saw some comparative stats between him and Kelsey this year because Kelsey had like 8 or 900 yards somewhere in there, but he had like 90 catches or something, and George has got over 1,000 yards with like on like 50 catches.
Yeah,
Like his yards per catch are just elite. And even last night he was breaking tackles and refusing to go out of bounds, running guys over. George hasn't. I mean, he might not be as fast, like foot speed, as he once was, but he can still get open. He can still beat man coverage. He's still. You see, even like good defenders, good DBs, linebackers around the league that they don't want to engage with him when
Yep.
he's got momentum. Like they're just diving at his shoes, trying to shove him out of bounds, and he's just seeking contact, and he wins every time. He kind of reminds me. He's a lot more bigger and more physical, but like Frank Gore, I felt like he always fell forward. And
Hmm.
George is just always falling forward and diving forward and getting an extra yard or two. He's he's quickly rising up like my favorite all time 49er list for sure.
yep. Love you, George. First team All Pro. Everybody vote, even though you don't have votes.
Well, let's give out a few more flowers because right after Kittle 1,000 yards, I have Ricky Pearsall break out.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Ricky was really impressive to me last night. First of all, Kyle kind of showed that he, like out of nowhere, just really trusts him because am I wrong that Pearsall had at least one because he threw a ball away? But did they call 2 passes for him in that game?
Oh
It almost looked like there was one out to the left side where he was going to throw to Purdy, but then he ended up just
Yeah.
like remember the pitch was a little high and he had to kind of almost like David Tyree trap it on his helmet, and then he realized the play was dead, so he just tried to run. But that might have been a pass play.
Is he like a former quarterback or something, like back from high school?
I don't know. Maybe just playing catch with Shanahan at practice. He's like, hey, you can throw a nice little spiral. Maybe I'll draw something up for you. And he had that one handed catch on the sideline. He got open across the middle a couple of times. Had some big plays. Brock hit him down the field on that one long one. The only the only thing that he hasn't really shown is he doesn't have like that big time yak ability. Like he doesn't break tackles. If like the first guy that gets there brings him down, he's trying to spin out of tackles. He usually gets tackled. I've seen him lower his shoulder a couple of times and just get stonewalled. That play against the Bucks, he did flash some speed and he outran Antoine Winfield to the corner for a touchdown.
Yeah.
But he hasn't shown like I mean, not many people have Jamar Chase speed, but like some guys just they get the angle and they're just up the sideline and gone, and he doesn't quite have that speed. So he was probably drafted 15 or 20 spots too early. He's not that like premier athlete wide receiver, but as far as I could tell, he's a good player.
He seems smart and he seems sure-handed. And I even like you're talking about maybe he's not the fastest guy, but I feel like he always takes the right angle. Like when he's running with the like he seems like he's good in space. I don't expect him to be Mr. Toughness and like gonna break tackles, but I feel like if you get him the ball and he's got a few yards, he's not gonna be Barry Sanders shifty, but he's gonna find a way to maximize what is there to be had. That's what it feels like when I watch him run.
We've probably just gotten spoiled watching Debo and Kittle all these
Yeah.
years, just
Yeah.
breaking 2 or 3 tackles every time they touch the ball. He's definitely much more Ayuk, where he's fast but not the fastest guy. He can break a tackle. I think Ayuk's pretty good at breaking tackles, but Um, Pearsall's probably more Ayuk skill set than Debo. But that being said, again, they ran the ball to him a couple times. He can catch the ball. He might even be able to throw the ball a little bit. So shout out Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, he played great. I've heard him compared to Travis Kelsey, just in a smaller body, which I think kind of makes sense. Just a smaller Kelsey, maybe just like as a wide receiver, maybe like some Adam Thielen or something like that, where it's like,
I like that comparison.
yeah, he's not going to overwhelm you with size, not going to overwhelm you with speed, but he's smart. He's a good route runner. He's takes good angles. He has really reliable hands. So yeah, I'm happy. I think that Pearsall, especially in the slot, I feel like he could be really nasty in the slot for years to come. So yeah, maybe an overdraft, but I think he's going to be a valuable contributor for years to come. So shout out Ricky.
If you get a really good player on your team for 4 or 5 years in the first round,
Yeah.
and he's a little bit of an overdraft, it's probably still a pretty good pick. The question is, will he? If he signs a second contract with the Niners, then that probably means he developed into a really nice player, and we'll see how that goes. But with Ayuk injured, I don't expect Ayuk to play week one. He could be a guy like he might not be ready till Halloween or Thanksgiving. Who knows? And then with Debo, you know, he'll get traded. Fingers crossed. Sorry, Debo, but like it'll be Jennings and Ricky week one.
Yep.
That'll be wide receiver 1 and 2. So he could have a big role early next year.
I think Ayuk can be back week one, but we'll see.
Really?
Oh yeah,
I kind of forgot what his injury was. Wasn't it like torn
ACL.
ACL
Yeah,
It
and
was more than the ACL though.
yeah, it was multiple ligaments.
what was that, week 5?
7, I
The,
think.
the recovery time for those injuries has gotten shorter and shorter. I'm
For
not
sure.
saying book it. He'll be in the lineup week one. I'm not saying
I
that for
know, but
sure.
his wasn't just like a clean ACL tear. He had damage to other ligaments, and from what I remember hearing about it, it was more than just your traditional ACL tear. And for him to be back week one, that would mean that he's like in training camp practicing, which would mean he's ready by August or July. And I don't know. The Niners are going to try and take it slow with him. They're not going to rush him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not
Well,
back
I,
week one.
I I wouldn't be surprised either. I'm just saying I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he'll miss it because he could have a really good rehab. I mean, it's it's all about how much strength he can keep in the muscles and everything around his knee as he recovers.
Yeah,
That's
you would
You
know.
would know better than us.
Yeah, you're the expert.
yeah. Well, yeah. When I tore up my knee, it was 3 of the 4 ligaments torn and the meniscus torn in 3 places. So I shredded it pretty good. and
Dang.
and that's what the doctor said. It's like, it's not your knee gets fixed, your knee's good. It's the amount of time that it takes to get your strength back up all around it. And so, I mean, and that was, man, it's crazy to say, but it's been like 14 years since I did mine. So I can only imagine the advances that have happened. But
Plus,
in,
he's
in,
got like NFL doctors in rehab. Sorry, you didn't have that.
and he's in NFL shape, which I definitely was not, so like he's got a lot going for him. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying, oh, mark it down, he'll be there. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised, because I feel like he'll probably be doing drills and stuff. Even he'll be ready to run and do all that stuff when training camp starts, but we'll see.
It'll be a big topic during training camp, the Ayuk watch and how much he is and isn't doing for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
healthy Ayuk, Jawan, and Pearsall, assuming Pearsall takes the jump that we expect him to, that's a pretty dang good core right there. And they all, I feel like, complement each other well. None of them are like burners, but like I feel like they're all different and they all have their own role on offense. I feel confident.
Well, and you still have Kittle. I mean, you're just talking
Oh
about the receivers.
yeah,
Mhm.
we have freaking Christian McCaffrey too.
And you have McCaffrey and Garindo, who can both catch the ball out of the backfield. It's like,
Yeah,
That's why it's time to move on from Debo. We don't
yeah,
we
yeah.
don't need Debo anymore. I
make him
feel bad just
make
trashing him, but
make him part of the trade package for Max Crosby. The Raiders can try and like
Go be a Raider.
him.
Can I give one more shout out really quick?
yeah.
To
I want to.
Garindo.
Yes. I love Isaac Garindo. I love him. I mean, even when he's not rushing for like high yardage, I feel like he is always trying so hard. I feel like he's a Niner. When I watch him play, I think he's a Niner. He runs hard. He still clearly makes some rookie mistakes, doesn't hit the right hole, but he's always fighting. And he's so fast and he's talented. And like, man, I just think obviously we have McCaffrey. It's going to be hard to get touches with a healthy McCaffrey, but I'm just like so stoked that we got this rookie who's just getting better, who is fast as hell, who plays tough. Like I don't think he gets enough credit for his toughness. I think he could even be like a really good like kickoff returner. Like I'm stoked. The two rookies I want to attach myself to that I'm going to claim are Isaac Garindo on offense, and I'm going to claim Renardo Green on defense. Those are going to be my two guys I'm going to follow closely.
All right.
We're gonna talk about the defense in a little bit, but yeah, and Garendo's a good pass catcher. He
Yep.
caught a couple big time passes in this game. He's had a couple this season. So, quick quick side note or side question: Who's the best running back the Niners have drafted?
Oh, God.
To me, it's Elijah Mitchell or Isaac Garando.
Are you talking about like the Lynch Shanahan era?
Shanahan Lynch, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be one of those two.
So it's like Joe Williams, Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon, Ty Davis Price, Isaac Garando. Now, maybe you could say Jordan Mason, but he was undrafted. So I'm talking about like specific drafted players.
Not that
It's probably Elijah Mitchell.
Not that my answer would be Matt Breida, but I think he was also undrafted.
Undrafted.
And they signed Mostert from some practice squad.
Chip Kelly. That was the one thing Chip Kelly did. Well, I guess they drafted Eric Armstead, but Chip Kelly brought in Raheem Mostert. So he was a holdover.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's got to be Elijah. I mean, Garindo's been nice recently, but he's been nice for a little over half a season. It's like
he's just kind of shown some potential. Elijah has carried the offense at times his rookie year. Mm-hmm. Well, really only his rookie year. Everything else has been injured reserve.
Yeah.
What's interesting is in the NFL this year, all the like veteran running backs that kind of like moved around, I feel like are all having a ton of success. Whether it's like Green Bay, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, even the guy in Minnesota, Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just been balling out. Running backs, it's like what's that? Like a moving door, whatever that's saying.
Revolving door. Expect a lot of fall off next year. I mean, that was part of my fantasy strategy when I was drafting this year, because I feel like that's a thing. whenever there's a running back that's a veteran that goes somewhere new, they
Motive.
want to justify the contract. So they put them in position to do really well. Plus, the guys are motivated because they're in new surroundings and they want to show that they still have it. So expect next year, not all of them, but of Saquon, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs. If you want to put Aaron Jones in that camp, of those four, expect at least two of them to fall off next year.
So Saquon's gonna have Achilles tendonitis next year.
Possibly. I mean, he might have his Christian McCaffrey year because he's got
Well,
so
that's why
huge.
I say that, because everyone wants to compare that. So we're gonna see the year after now. Like we're gonna get to see, is McCaffrey gonna be able to like come back? And
Another one to throw in that, Joe Mixon, because he's done awesome this year.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
Joe is an awesome running back that doesn't get enough credit.
he is. So the one that I feel like just because of age that would be most likely to fall off, but I can't pick him to fall off because I'm not sure if he's human, is Derrick Henry.
Derek. Yeah.
So I feel like you can't pick him to be the one to fall off. But I could see Josh Jacobs having a big fall off next year, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mixon and Saquon did. It's not that I think Aaron Jones is like awesome. I just don't think that he's lighting the world on fire enough that you feel like, if he has another year like he had this year, it's kind of like, okay, good for you. Not great.
Yeah.
You know what sucks about Saquon too is he could rush for 1,400 yards next year, and it'd be like, what happened to
What
Saquon?
happened to
He fell off.
Saquon? Yeah, exactly.
It's like that's an incredible year, but because he went for 2K this year, it's like set the bar pretty high. All right, Kyle Shanahan. He kind of frustrated me in this game because I thought that he just kind of watch him on the sideline. I thought he looked really focused. Listening to him talk, he seemed really motivated. He really wanted to win this game. One comment he made that kind of bothered me a little bit is he said something a day or two before the game, like, we want to go out there and spoil their chance at the number one seed. And I was like, that's interesting because we've talked a couple times this season about the lack of awareness by some 49ers players in like certain positions, and I thought, well, that's where they get it from. Kyle thinks that they can spoil the number one seed. This game is irrelevant to the Lions, Kyle. He
Yeah,
doesn't even know that.
I
So
know.
I'm like, okay, well, that's where the lack of awareness comes from. It's the head coach. Um, I thought Kyle was doing well early in the game, like being aggressive. He was scheming it up. He and Brock were in tandem, like we talked about, just dicing the Lions' banged up defense up, and they were scoring touchdowns. But when he ran Jake Moody out for a 58-yard field goal, and like I know it's 4th and 10, so it's hard to say go for it on 4th and 10, but like part of me is like, well, I wish you maybe run the ball on 3rd and 10 and get 3 or 4 yards, and then go for it. Like there's no reason to be kicking field goals at all in this game. I said that before the game. If you're kicking field goals in this game, you're losing. The Niners were up at one point 28-21, and they held the Lions to a field goal, and I thought that was the first time I thought, hey, the Niners might actually win this game. Like you hold the opposing team to a field goal in this game, that's a big W. And I thought Kyle understood that when he had scored 28 points, but then he started trying to kick these field goals with a kicker who's been awful, at least since he came back from his injury. And I just started to get like really frustrated. Like Kyle, he still doesn't get it, and I almost felt like he sent Jake Moody out there on that 58-yarder.
To die.
Yeah, to like you go out there and fail, and when you miss, everyone's gonna get mad at you and not mad at me for the awful drive that I just put together.
Well, wasn't that 58-yarder? Wasn't there like 4 seconds left?
That was the 51-yarder before halftime, which I'm fine kicking a field goal there. There's 7 seconds left in half. Of course, you want to get a few points. Like that's perfectly fine. But after that, like, and it's like we're not fighting for our playoff lives here. So like, empty the playbook. Like, let's see what 4th down calls you got. Pretend. I don't know. Your season is on the line and it's 4th and 10. And you got to go for it. Just go for it. You know, another thing I learned too when you kick a field goal and you miss it, the team that takes over, they don't take over where the ball was, like where you were, where you snapped the ball. They take over where the holder holds the
Yep.
ball.
Yep.
I did not know that. So
Know that.
when you kick a field goal and miss, you're giving that team a free. I don't even know how far the snap is, 6, 7 yards.
It's usually 7 yards. Yeah.
Yeah, so Kyle just spotted the Lions a free 7 yards there on a down. And again, I know it's 4th and 10, but run something else so it's not 4th and 10. Even on 3rd and 10, run the ball and get 2 or 3 or 4 yards and go for it then. And I just I was really frustrated with Kyle in the second half. I just didn't think he had a good game plan, and he started getting crazy pass happy like we've seen him do in plenty of games, especially big games. And yeah, he was kind of frustrating me. What do you guys think of Kyle's game plan for this game?
You want me to go first, Chase, or you want to go?
You.
I, I didn't have any problem with it. I liked the game plan. I thought that he put them in position to win the game. And honestly, on that 58-yard field goal, I don't know what else he's supposed to do. Like you said, on 4th and 10, it's not like that they put together a bad drive. I didn't like the one play call because I think it was on 1st and 10 on the downs where they ended up kicking the field goal is when they tried that tricky play with Ricky, I think. And
Tricky
so
Ricky.
so to me, that was kind of like a waste of a play. But like you said something earlier in the game, Ryan, when we were texting about wanting creativity, I was like, well, there you go. You get your creativity. And here's the downside of creativity. It doesn't always work out when you have somebody who's not a quarterback trying to throw a pass. So
I said that kind of tongue in cheek,
no,
but
yeah, I know you were trying to be funny with it, but I'm just using it as the example of like
right.
it looks great when it works. When the Lions do their little
That pitch
lateral and
play was so cool
yeah, it was
from
great.
Amon Ra to Williams.
Yeah.
Imagine how like they would have been getting killed if like he did a poor pitch and it falls to the turf and the Niners jump on it and it's like, oh, he had the first down. He, like why are you giving up something easy? So it all comes down to
I wouldn't kill him, but people would.
no
I
no.
would be like, hey, take your shot. Like, why not? What do you have to lose? That's kind of my point. It's like, what are we kicking field goals in a game where you have nothing to lose?
So I feel like if it was 4th and 5, Kyle probably would have went for it in that scenario because of everything you're saying. Maybe not, but we've seen him do that before in the past. I just don't think you can go for it on 4th and 10, especially if you just had two downs in a row where it was 2nd and 10 and 3rd and 10 and you did absolutely nothing. Now, I'm not saying like maybe they should have tried to run the ball more. Maybe they did get a little pass happy. That's fair for you
He
to
did call 16 straight passes. That stat's
yeah.
been going
So
around.
for you to say that, that's fair. But also the passing was working. I mean, what
Yeah,
Brock
I
didn't
have no
throw
problem with the pass happy because it
yeah,
was working.
yeah, Brock didn't throw an incompletion until almost the end of the second quarter, right? I mean, it was like so I felt like the Niners were put in position to win the game last night, and they didn't because they didn't execute in a few key situations, most obviously making field goals. Now, it's funny because if Moody has had a good year and like hardly had any misses, I think he gets a lot more slack, missing a 51 and a 58 yarder. But knowing that he's already had all these other failures this year, knowing that his thing was supposed to be a strong leg, like coming in, and knowing that he was a high pick, which isn't his fault. That's the Niners' fault for using, such a high draft pick on a kicker. But still, it's like, okay, dude, you were brought in here to do one thing, well, two things: kick touchbacks and make the field goals. And you're supposed to be, strong leg kicker. And so just based on Moody's points, like I know you guys have seen it, but just based on the points that Moody didn't put on the board for him, they win the game. And who knows if his play calling would have been any different? Probably not. I think he called the plays he would have called no matter what. But if he had a little more faith or whatever in the special teams, I don't know. I think that I had no problem with Kyle or the game plan last night. I didn't really like the defense too much, but I know you said we're going to talk about the defense later. But
Yeah,
anyways,
we don't even have to spend too much time on Kyle because for the most part, I thought he did well, but there were a couple moments where I thought, like, what are you doing? And honestly, in that moment, instead of the 58-yard field goal, probably should have just punted the ball. Maybe going forward wasn't even the right call, but the field goal was definitely not the right call. They probably should have just punted the ball, even though the defense had been awful all game long. Jason, do you want to say anything about Kyle, or do you want to
well,
start piling on this
real
terrible
quick,
defense?
real quick, he had the leg for 58 yards. He was just off. So it's not even like that. I mean, and the Lions kicker made a 57-yarder just a little bit before. So it's not like he was asking him to go kick a 50. I mean, a 58-yarder is hard no matter what. There's no way in hell I could ever do it. But it's not like he was asking him to do something impossible. And Moody proved with both of his attempts that he has the leg to get it there. He just doesn't have the accuracy.
For Jake Moody, it might be impossible.
Well, okay, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's not like it came up short. You know, like if you send Robbie Gold out to make a 58-yarder, it's like, dude, I mean,
Yeah,
it'll probably be right down the middle, but I just don't think he can get it there.
but it won't make it to the end zone.
Right. And it's like Moody, you know he can do it. You just saw the other kicker do it for like go freaking do it. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Jason.
No, I don't have a ton to say. I do agree with Steven that I thought he had a great game plan, and it was Brock's interceptions that kind of threw the game,
Mhm.
as well as Jake Moody's missed kicks. The one thing I will say is, like, this game plan reminded me of like Kyle when the Niners roster wasn't that good, like when they went on that like 5-0 run. Steven, it looks like we lost your camera for some reason. I don't know what happened. Oh, you're back. Now you're muted.
I'm back. I'm back. Sorry.
It reminded me of the 5-0 run they went on with Jimmy G, where like he was aggressive, he's going for it on fourth downs, he had trick plays. Like, I like the way Kyle coaches when he feels like they're not the better team. And that's what I felt like he thought going into it.
That's a good
Hey, we're
point.
not the better team. We're going to need trick plays. We're going to need to be pass happy. It's going to be a shootout. The Lions is going to put up a crap ton of points on my defense. So I'm going to need to be aggressive, blah, blah, blah. So I liked it. It obviously made for a very exciting game. But then again, if the pass game wasn't working, then maybe I'd be like, "You're such an idiot. Run the ball more." But Brock was feeling himself for the most part, and it worked. So it certainly made for a fun game. But I thought he had a great game plan. But yeah, we can move on.
What about? Yeah, I mean, like for the most part, I think he did well, but there were just some moments that really frustrated me. But Jason, you've been kind of piling on the defense a lot this season, and they've
Oh,
been,
yeah,
especially Sorensen, and
yeah.
they were. I thought Nick Bosa. I said before the game last week that he was like my X factor, and he needed to go out and have a big game, and I thought he did. He had 4 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 8 tackles in total. I thought he was playing hard as hell. I was really happy with Nick Bosa. Outside Nick Bosa, I mean, I don't know. The defense was pretty bad. And I know Bernardo Green had a nice breakup on fourth down in the end zone. Malik Mustafa had a nice tackle here and there. Didn't really see 54 very much out there. Unfortunately, he was chasing a running back that's just too damn fast. The Niners forced 0 punts in this game, which is and 0 turnovers. Obviously, they've got 2 turnovers since the bye week. Um, what'd you guys think of this bad defense?
Just horrible. I don't even know what else to say. It's just not 49ers defense. It's like a college defense out there. Like, it's just so bad. I just don't even know anything new to say that we haven't already said. Like, there's a few games where I kind of like Sorensen's game plan, and then we go against like teams like the Lions where they have a really good offensive coordinator, and it's like, dude, we just get killed by any decent offensive coordinator, any decent quarterbacks, or even like run games. It's like, we cannot stop what they do best or have any like tricks up our sleeve or do anything that seems super creative that confuses or flusters them. It's like we're just playing. It seems to me, who doesn't have a ton of knowledge on the X's and O's of football, it seems like we're just playing like a base defense, and like if our talent makes some plays and it's awesome, but like I don't ever feel like we're like schematically advantaged ever on defense. And I did feel that way when we had D'Amico Ryans and we had Robert Saleh. So it's like I don't think they are going to fire Sorensen, but I want them to. I firmly do want them to. I want them to get him out of town or demote him. I doubt he would accept that. I don't know what that would look like, but I don't think Sorensen's the answer. And we just need more talent too. Like it's obviously not just on Sorensen. Like we're pretty depleted, especially on the defensive line. Um, yeah, I was really disappointed in our secondary, especially because I've been pounding the drum on them. Obviously, we're down Mooney. I thought Lenore had one of his worst games of the season. Um, Renardo had that nice play, but then also had some bad plays. So it's just like
The fourth
we,
down, the touchdown to Amon-Ra St. Brown, he was guarding no one.
yeah, we got out schemed. We got out talented, like everywhere across the board. We couldn't match up. We couldn't do anything. It was pretty abysmal.
So I'm going to put my optimism hat on again here,
Do it.
because the Lions are what, the number one offense, at least the number one scoring offense in the NFL, and their offense is pretty much healthy from what I understand. I know David Montgomery wasn't out there, but that might actually work in their favor because Gibbs is more elusive and
Stud.
He's
Yeah.
explosive.
yeah, damn good. Like he was
The Niners could
impressive
not
to
stop
watch.
him at all.
The optimism thing that I have here is, and it's what I texted you guys last night. They made plays. I know that they didn't make a turnover or whatever, but you would see good plays that the defense makes, and then they might follow it up with 3 or 4 bad ones in a row, but they were making good plays throughout the game. And I feel like what this shows is their inexperience, their youth, which they have a lot of youth out there right now. I know they have veterans too. Honestly, like one thing that I remember thinking last night, there was that play. It was one of the touchdowns that Detroit scored, and Fred was like in coverage, and I think he realized that where Goff was going to go with the ball, and if he would have like just a split second sooner, he might have had a chance to make a jump on it, but he didn't, and he like went towards the direction the ball got to the receiver on time, and he just like immediately like went, oh, like
It was the touchdown to Laporta. I
yeah,
saw the same thing.
Yes.
He was so mad.
and I was like, I wish in some weird way that Fred would take a few more chances. It's almost like he is so fundamentally sound that it's like I'm staying in my zone, and it's like if you are instinctual as all get out. If you see something, go try be a little bit Troy Polamalu. Now that is going to lead to times where you get burned on something if you take a chance, right? But I feel like he doesn't really do that. He is always in the right spot. And like you said, getting out schemed, you can scheme away from Fred Warner where he's going to hold it down, be in the right spot, do the right thing. I mean, the announcers talked about it on one play where it was, I think, another touchdown for the Lions, or at least it got him right down by the goal line. And they're like, Fred Warner did his job. He did everything right. And this is like, I was like, oh, that's nice of them to highlight how great Fred is on a negative play for the Niners. But it was true. It was like, yeah, Fred did exactly what he was supposed to do. He didn't take the bait on the play action. He's in the right spot. And oh, look at one of his teammates over here totally screwed up, and then Lions got a big play out of it. And I feel like the fact that there are so many young guys, especially in the secondary, this is like good medicine for them. And I'm glad that they're dealing with this right now in a season that's basically lost, where they're not going to, be able to make any noise. So yeah, take your lumps right now and come back stronger next year when you can actually make a run towards something. Now, if you don't learn from it and you continue to make these mistakes, then shame on you. That like then you're just not that good. But we had 2 rookies in the secondary, right, last night that were playing like pretty much the whole game. It's bound to happen. There's going to be some rookie mistakes. So I feel like, yeah, it sucks. Like it sucks to see it happen. It sucks to know what they're capable of because, like you said, Ryan, you saw the great plays by Bosa. You did see some good run stuffs in the game at times. You saw a lot more good runs by them, but you did see other players making plays. I mean, like it's there. Like I feel like you can see it. They're just not able to put it together yet, and I'm gonna choose to believe it's because they're young and inexperienced. And if they get a chance, if they do keep Sorensen, which I do think they'll keep Sorensen, mostly because they got rid of Wilkes after 1 year, and I just don't think they'll do that 2 years in a row. But it could be a good thing because get that consistency, get these guys, a little bit more time together. I feel like they'll be all right.
Yeah, I think I probably agree with you, Steven, on the Sorensen thing. They're probably going to bring him back because firing another defensive coordinator is probably just not a good look, which is not a good reason to keep one. Um, other coaches, Jim Harbaugh brought his defensive coordinator from college. The Packers hired Boston College's head coach to be their D coordinator. He's been good. I wonder if Kyle needs to go to maybe search in the college ranks if there's a gem out there. But yeah, I mean, maybe a Jeff Ulbrich. I don't know. They're probably going to stick with Sorensen. For me, when I was watching the defense last night, I was it made me realize like how badly they need Dre Greenlaw because
Yeah.
D Winters reminds me a little bit of a young Dre, where like he's fast and he's violent and he's physical, but Dre used to over pursue and miss tackles, and that's what I feel like I'm seeing from D. D's also, Jason mentioned it in our text thread. He's kind of fragile. Seems
Yeah,
like even if he's limping off the field and coming back on a couple plays later, he's like always dealing with something. It seems like. And but Dre improved. Dre was the fast and violent guy who would miss a tackle or two, but he became a really sure tackler. He earned the big play Dre moniker early in his career because he was forcing turnovers. He had that big stop on the inch line. The
Ooh.
problem with Dre Greenlaw, or not Dre Greenlaw, D Winters, he got burned badly in coverage. Like he can't cover a soul. Jameer Gibbs, who I get it, he's really good, he's explosive, but so is D Winters. He ran like a 4.40. He's supposed to be explosive. So if you're getting beat that bad, it's because you don't know like what you're doing. You're not like reading your keys, as they say, and using your technique. He's just out there on instinct. And Jameer Gibbs burned him. Sam Laporta burned him. He cannot cover at all. And to me, that's what separates Dre and D. Is Dre's a better tackler, and he's I don't know if he's as good as Fred in coverage, but he's good in coverage. And D is a liability. So the Niners are going to have to upgrade at that linebacker spot this offseason by either keeping Dre or spending a higher draft pick on a new linebacker.
hopefully everybody's just sours on Aziz Al-Shair after his suspension, and they
Yeah.
cut him, and the Niners can come back home. Aziz, we
Oh.
we'll still love you. Don't worry. We know you. We know that you're a good guy. Um,
There was a stretch of games where people were debating online on Twitter is like, is Aziz Al-Shair better than Fred Warner? When Dre Greenlaw was out and Aziz was just filling that Dre Greenlaw role as good as he could, flying around, hitting, making tackles. But he's going to get the tackles, just like Dre Greenlaw usually leads the team in tackles because teams are avoiding Fred.
yeah,
So, but yeah, that
nobody
discussion did happen at one point.
nobody's better than Fred. Don't even try to say it.
Yeah.
Anybody? It's just
No.
there's nobody like him. But I'll tell you another defensive thought that I had last night because I've kind of gone back and forth on Hufanga. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm ready to say goodbye. Like
It's funny.
I felt
A
like
game or two ago, you were like, I think they should bring him back.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's up and down.
it's been up and down, and I felt like last night I was like, dude, like it just seemed like there were so many plays where he wasn't even hitting hard, he wasn't flying around like he normally does, and it's just like, what's going on? Like maybe he's still hurt or whatever. I don't know, but it's like that Hufanga. We might as well have a young guy that's going to make some mistakes, but might still make some plays out there rather than him. So I don't know. I feel like the big three defensive free agents are Greenlaw, Mooney, and Hufanga, right? And I would rank them in that order in terms of who I think the Niners should prioritize. And I don't expect them to bring back Mooney. So that tells, like, to me, it's like Hufanga might have to be one of those sacrifices. I know, I hear like how the team loves him, like got that work ethic, and he seems like a really good guy. So it's not like I think it's addition by subtraction necessarily, but I feel like he's basically a replacement level safety in the league that will make some big plays every now and then, but will also get burned. And so it's like, do you really want to pay second contract money to that guy at that position if he's not just like, some phenomenal talent? And I don't think they should, but that's my take.
Is he that much better than Jair Brown? Like, is he $10 million better than Jair Brown? I don't think
No,
so.
I think he's better than
So,
Jair Brown. I don't think he's $10 million better than Jair Brown.
and is he $10 million better than Malik Mustafa?
No, Malik Mustafa
No.
might be
So,
better than him right now.
I would agree, but the point is, all three of those guys are probably strong safeties, and Malik Mustafa should probably be your starter. Jair Brown his backup, and the Niners need to go get a free. They need
Free
like prime
safety.
Jimmy
Yeah.
Ward.
Yeah.
I
I
agree.
agree. I want them to go like invest the money in a veteran free agent, free safety that has proven it. Um,
The good,
Or I mean, if they want to spend, if there's a good one in the second or third round, I like
yeah.
that too. They
well,
just need to get someone who's a free safety, not a strong safety playing free safety,
the good thing
which is
about
what they have now.
safeties is they're generally cheaper. So
He-
that is
Yeah.
somewhere where you could potentially take a bigger swing in free agency, because even the maybe not the top of the market guys, but towards the top of the market guys probably aren't going to be that costly.
Yep. I'd love to see that. I think that would really help round out the secondary.
Yeah. Um,
But Mooney is going to be a big loss. I just don't think they're going to be able to afford him, and that's going to be something they have to deal with, because I don't think Yadam's the answer as their.
No,
no.
no. It's such a big loss this year because how far of a drop off it is. It's like good cornerback play to pretty bad
Below
cornerback.
journeyman
Yeah.
quarterback play.
It's like even if we get like an average cornerback in there, like it'll still be a drop off, but not insane.
All right, we're at just over an hour. Just one last question for you guys. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this. What was the worst kick of the game? Was it the onside kick? Was it the missed field goal? Was it the kickoffs that didn't even get close to the end zone? Like, what was Moody's worst kick of the night?
I'll
I
go.
think it was the onside kick.
I'm gonna go onside kick just because it was like
What was that?
just blasted it out of bounds. It's
So,
ridiculous.
so I actually think his worst kick was the missed extra point. I
Oh my gosh, I forgot to
I-
mention that one.
I think that was the worst and the most egregious, and I think that just showed he was in his head. I think,
Hmm.
and maybe I'm giving him too much grace here, but I think that he was trying to kick it hard at a Lions player on the onside kick. I think he was
Right.
doing
That's
that
something you do in the longest yard, not real football.
Right. But that's what I think he was trying to do. I don't think it was a good plan. But
No. So, is that the longest yard when he's like, "Where's my bitch?
yeah,
There's my bitch."
well,
Yeah, that tells me the 49ers clearly, because remember Mitch Wishnowski's onside kick attempt earlier this year when it just like spun like 3 yards and didn't even get close to the 10-yard mark. So the Niners, they must not practice that at all.
either that or they just don't have the personnel to do it.
I guess not. I totally forgot about the missed extra point. That was
To me, that was the worst
bad.
one. But the onside kick was not pretty.
So he left 7 points on the board, Moody. Wow.
Yeah.
In a
Obviously
6-point loss.
they lose by 5 or 6. Yeah, you're right. So,
Oh, yeah.
but Moody's missed kicks, Purdy's interceptions, and the defense not forcing a single punt. Those are the three.
But
That's why you lose.
that's what's crazy about those missed kicks is like, even with Purdy's 2 interceptions, if you make those kicks, you still win, assuming that it goes the same, which is part of why. Sorry, but just to go back to earlier, I didn't really have a problem with the game plan or how things were called, because if it, like Chasen said, if it wasn't for those picks, I think they win that game, because they probably go down and score touchdowns on those drives instead of the interceptions.
picks, missed kicks, and with how bad our defense played. And
Yeah,
we
those are the
should have
big
won.
three.
Yeah.
You
The
know, it's
three recipes for a loss.
yeah.
Our set.
What's funny is I was thinking to myself, like, man, Brock has dialed this game. He's playing so well. Has he even thrown an incomplete pass yet? I honestly can't even think of one. That next play, he hit the free safety in the chest. I was like, okay, well, that's at least one. Although technically the guy caught it.
Hey, do you guys remember? I know we've, crapped on Debo plenty this year, and I don't mean to do this, but did Debo have another catch besides the little forward pitch that he took in for a touchdown? Because I don't remember him getting another catch.
Oops.
I think he just had some nice, decent kickoff returns, and then maybe
He had a couple good runs.
some rushes earlier on in the game.
I just don't remember a ball being like thrown to him. I could have missed it, but I don't.
He probably was blanketed by their third string cornerback.
Anyways.
Oh, no. Geez, you're right. He had one catch, 5 yards, touchdown.
Yeah. So, and that shouldn't even, I mean, I know it's a forward pass, but like, come on, that's a pitch. It just so happens to be like a pitch right in front of your body.
And 3 carries for 16 yards.
So Brock completed.
And it was all on like that first drive.
Brock completed more passes to Joseph on the Lions last night than he did to Debo.
If you have it handy, did Debo have any more targets and he just didn't catch them?
No.
I don't think he did.
One target, one reception. Wow.
It's all love Debo. Debo was right. He's not getting the opportunities.
I hope we'll talk about this on our next one, but I hope Kyle feeds Debo against the Cardinals. Pump up that trade value. Get him 15 touches.
I don't think it'll happen. Honestly, what I saw at the end of last night, because it's going to be Dobbs, right? I know we're going to do our Cardinals preview later, but it sure seemed to me that Dobbs likes throwing to Juwan. And so I'm like,
well, you heard him say that they were college teammates.
Yeah, so feed Juwan and get him that 1,000. Because I think he needs a huge game in order to get it.
Yeah, he might need like 140 or something.
No, he doesn't. I have his stats right here. He has 70 receptions for 923 yards.
Okay.
Feed
That's doable,
Juwan.
then.
77 yards.
He must have had a bigger game last night than I realized.
I think because of those late passes from Dobbs. I think Dobbs hit him for like at least 2, maybe 3 passes towards the end of the game where he probably got a good 30, 40 garbage time yards.
Yeah, clutch. All right, yeah, then 77 is well within. Yeah, he could do that. They can get 1,000. That'd be really cool.
I get your point, Ryan, and I hope you're like. I would love it if some team saw that. Like, oh my gosh, Debo Samuel to finish the year goes off for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns, and everybody's like, look at it, he's still there. He's still that Debo.
Third round pick. Here, take it.
I think everybody's too smart for that. I think everybody looks at the first 16 games. Maybe the Raiders. Maybe we can get the Raiders to see it, but.
I am genuinely, I'm not being sarcastic, I'm very excited to watch Josh Dobbs play. And it's a revenge game because he was on the Cardinals.
Yeah, they traded him, right, to the Vikings?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
insane. Not that it would have changed the outcome of the Packer game, but it's insane that Dobbs didn't start that game.
Josh Dobbs is a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's a starter, but he's a high-end backup, low-end starter, in my opinion. I think he's pretty darn.
He's a quarterback who could come in you and win you a game or two because he's kind of dynamic and he'll rip the ball. Yeah. But if you have to start him for a month plus, you're probably screwed.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think he's going to run around too and have some exciting plays scrambling.
Can't wait to dive into the Josh Dobbs takes when we do our next one.
We can definitely hit some more of that next
to
time.
the Pastronaut.
Yeah.
All right, let's call it there. I'll talk to you guys in a couple days.
See you guys.
Sounds good. Peace out, guys.